when we talk about environment, we first of all think about pollution. Pollution is an environmental factor which affects everyone. So things like climatic change can be something which people do not feel immediately. Pollution is usually felt immediately. And what is pollution? Pollution is any substance or factor occurring in the amount that makes nuisance to humans or environment. Nuisance means something unpleasant, something not necessarily immediately affecting health, but something that makes your life uncomfortable. So, pollution, the fact whether something is pollution or not, often depends on the context. For example, in some areas, let's say sand on the beach will be okay, but sand in the street, not necessarily. Pollution can be divided depending on the factor which makes pollution. So pollution can be mechanical, like dust, sand, or some solid pieces. Chemical, all the chemical substances. Biological, so biological pollution would be parasites, bacteria, and also viruses. So now we are affected by biological pollution with the pandemic. Pollution can be also waves, radiation, like radioactive radiation, but also acoustic waves like noise. Noise is also a kind of pollution, and even ordinary light can be also polluting factor. Pollution can also be divided into natural and anthropogenic. This is an example of natural pollution of water, which is mud or silt, which is in the river, and because of that, the river is muddy. In this example, this is from Canada, from the province of Nova Scotia. This is the river which you might notice it looks as if it flew backwards because of the tide. It's the river mouth, and you can see as if it goes backwards. But that's not related to the pollution. That's the pollution is natural, which is mud. And here we can see the decantation pond in Nova Huta from the steelworks. All the metal pollutants are going to the water, to the decantation pond, and this red color is from the iron, from the compounds of iron. Wastewater has to be treated.
And here is the example of the wastewater treatment plant or sewage treatment plant in Kraków, Płaszów. And here you can see wastewater, which is brought in special containers, but obviously most of wastewater is coming through the sewerage system. And there are several stages of wastewater treatment. Basically, we can divide wastewater treatment into mechanical and biological. And there is also chemical, which is chemical wastewater treatment is simply coagulation of ion compounds so that water does not contain iron and does not have this rusty color. So mechanical treatment is simply separation of wastes and also sedimentation. And it is carried out in decantation ponds. Biological treatment is based on natural processes. The consortia of microorganisms feed on the compounds of nitrogen and also phosphorus, so they feed on nutrients because household sewage contains a lot of nutrients. So then the bacteria and other microorganisms simply remove nutrients. And in the biological part, there is anaerobic, aerobic, and anoxic chamber. And here, with bubbles, there is obviously aerobic chamber or aerobic pond. And here, the activated sludge works in the conditions with oxygen. In anaerobic part, there is no oxygen. And the effect is clean water. Well, technically speaking, it is still sewage, but it has much better, or maybe not much, but better parameters, or some parameters are better than the parameters in the river to which the wastewater is released. And in this particular case, this is River Drwina. The sludge remaining after mechanical treatment has to be compacted, dehydrated, and then it is incinerated together with the excess of activated sludge, which also has to be dehydrated and so on. the whole process of the management and control of the work of the wastewater treatment station is automatic. We will not be talking about soil pollution right now, but I would like to say something about air pollution in the context of the present situation where there are much less motor vehicles, much less cars in the city of Krakow. And here the information is that despite of drastic reduction in the number of cars, there is still bad quality of the air. Some people call it smog. Some people do not say that it is smog, but nevertheless, the air quality is bad, and the the cause might be, or at least the hypothesis is that it is because of the neighboring municipalities where coal is still used for heating. And the city of Krakow is situated in the valley. So the air is not circulating freely, and that's why the quality of air is still bad. So car traffic is not really that important for the quality of air.
Industry, that used to be one of most polluting factors, now is not that significant in its contribution to air pollution. At least now in Poland, the role of industry in polluting the environment is diminishing. This is because of the regulations, stricter regulations requiring some standards, air quality standards, and due to the modernization, the problem is diminishing. Here we have the example of the cogeneration plant, cogeneration and power plant in Weng. Cogeneration plant is a plant where both electricity is produced and heat is produced, and heat is used for heating flats, and electricity is obviously used for various purposes. So heat is not released simply to water, although it also happens, releasing water to the river is also regarded pollution, as I told you before. But here the heat is not lost. The heat is used for heating flats. And various measures were taken to get rid, for example, of sulfur in the output of the plant. Radioactive pollution is a kind of physical pollution connected with the release to the environment radioactive substances. Radioactive substances are elements or the compounds of elements containing elements which are radioactive. Radioactive isotopes occur naturally in the environment, and radiation can be natural. In some areas, there can be elevated level of natural radiation as well. Radioactive pollution is affecting cells of living organisms, and this has many harmful effects to humans, animals, and plants, and any living organisms. Apart from natural sources of radiation, there are also artificial sources of radiation, so artificial or human-made. And there are nuclear tests. Obviously, there are various moratoria on nuclear tests, and nuclear tests are not done on the daily basis. Nevertheless, they cause serious damage and pollution. I can give you an example. In the 50s, a movie was made on the Utah desert, and this was close to the Nevada nuclear testing place. And the actors, 90 of the 90 people of the staff working with the movie, all the actors and the other filmmakers, died of cancer, and there were more than 200 people working in the Utah desert. And their death, the high death rate, is associated with the nuclear testing, which was close to the place where the movie was taken. Although some argue that the deaths were very prolonged in time, so it was not just immediately or a few years after the movie was shot. It was, for example, in case of the most famous actor in this movie, John Wayne, he died more than 20 years later, in 1979. So some people say that it is just a legend, coincidence. Nevertheless, it looks very suspicious, and obviously cancer develops over years. So there is high possibility that people who died of cancer, that they were affected by the radiation from the Nevada testing place. Power plants are also a source of nuclear pollution, of radiation, and I mean not only nuclear power plants, but also conventional power plants are source of radioactive pollution. And obviously, in case of nuclear power plants, we think about two things: the possibility of disaster, as it was in Chernobyl or in Fukushima. So these most notorious disasters, but also the problem of the deposition of nuclear waste. Also, nuclear waste can be source of radioactive pollution if they are stored improperly. So the deposition of nuclear waste is a problem. Nevertheless, some people consider nuclear power plants much safer than conventional power plants. So there is discussion whether nuclear power is environmentally friendly or not. Light can be also polluting factor. Obviously, light is necessary, especially for us. We are diurnal animals, let's say, diurnal organisms. So it means that we live during the day. We are active during the day, and during the night, when it's dark, we sleep. And nocturnal animals, just the opposite. They sleep during the day and they are active at night. And what does it mean that we sleep at night? That we need darkness to sleep, and we sleep much better when it's dark. And in big cities, usually there is no time of darkness because, as we can say, that big cities never sleep. So we have lights all around 24 hours a day. So what does it mean as well? It also means that animals, it disturbs animals. Birds, bats are particularly affected. Birds are mostly, apart from owls, birds are usually diurnal, but bats are nocturnal. When we are talking about bats, it is worth mentioning about the town of Nieuwkoop in the Netherlands. This town is known of bats, and the city council decided to change street lights from white to red, because red light is not noticed by bats, and this will be compromise between streets being visible and safe for people who walk at night, and bats which got distracted by white or yellow lights, by the lights which are usually put in the street. Some the residents of Nieuwkoop protested at first because they thought about the red district in Amsterdam, which we know what it is. But finally, probably they got used to the red lights, and they understood that it was good for bats, so they decided to keep red lights.
Look at the lights at the University of Science and Technology, AGH University of Science and Technology. You see that the lights are yellow. The shade is yellow instead of white. So the lights are not covered, but they are visible from the sky, but they are not bright, they are yellowish. This is enough to make people feel safe, but this does not distract birds, bats, and so on.
When we are talking about Krakow, there is a decision by the board responsible for roads that street lights will be turned off from midnight till 4 o'clock in the morning due to the lockdown, and because of the lockdown, people do not move so much. They do not move without necessity, so they do not move at night, so they decided to turn the traffic lights off. So the decision is controversial because of the safety, and we will not discuss it. But let's look at the map of the world at the points, and we can see bright points where the light is on, and we can see darkness. And in Europe, North America, East Asia, there are bright areas. In South America, only some cities like Rio de Janeiro or Buenos Aires will be bright. And in Africa, Cape Town, Johannesburg, and not much more. Cairo as well, but most of Africa is dark. And southern part of Australia, Sydney, Melbourne also are bright. And in this map, Krakow will be dark. But maybe we will be able to see the stars in Krakow, because normally we can't see the stars even in the middle of the night. Anyway, thank you for your attention, and till next time.